All right. John King, we don't hear, or we haven't heard a lot from President Obama in the Trump era. He's been relatively judicious in terms of when he's chosen to engage on certain things. But this obviously a significant moment for him. What stood out to you, and what message do you think he is wanting to send and present at this period of time?
The mix in the two clips you play is what stands out to me, in the sense of you often figure out what's going to work in the moment, right? And that is a very serious case. Talking about, remember, it was the Trump people constantly complaining about Biden, alleging the Biden administration was politicizing the Justice Department. And now what we've seen during the Trump administration, and I think you could get 100 law school kids and not ask them their politics and let them take a vote and say which Justice Department has been more political, and I think the answer would be pretty obvious, and that would be the Trump Justice Department. So that's a policy argument that Democrats want to hear from their candidates, that they think the Trump administration has gone way overboard. But I actually think the humor is kind of effective in the idea that, he didn't mention Trump there, but it's pretty clear he's saying, oh, maybe you could perform, Stephen, better than some people out there. Humor can play a huge role in politics, especially when people hate politics, as to try to get people to laugh a little bit.
Yeah, well, and it sort of struck me that the thing he seemed to be laughing about was like, oh, Stephen, like you think you could do what I did? It was a little bit of the vibe I got there. And Jamie, the interesting thing, I mean, he said this to the New Yorker in a piece that was published earlier this week. This is Obama talking about himself, his role in the media environment. He says, for me to function like Jon Stewart, even once a week, just going off ripping what was happening, which, by the way, I'm glad John's doing, then I'm not a political leader, I'm a commentator, Obama said. In fact, he insisted he's doing more than people realize. The media environment is so difficult that people don't even know all the stuff I'm doing, right? Which also speaks to, his conception of his own celebrity and the way that he should be able to punch through, but it's pretty telling.
So there have been times where he's come out, the Radio City music hall moment with the other presidents. He does a lot on social media, which is very different from sitting down, but reaches a wide audience. I do think that I'm just wondering, as we get to the midterm elections, are we going to see more and more of Obama out there?
I think the answer is yes. I hope so, and I think the answer is yes. I mean, look, I've been on the last 3 presidential campaigns, 4 if you want to count Biden and Harris being 2 separate ones, up for debate. He is by far our most important and most effective surrogate. He was in 2016 for Hillary Clinton. He was in 2020 for President Biden. He was in 2024 for President Biden, and then Vice President Harris. So I think you will see more from him. And look, I think this team is trying to find different ways to use his voice effectively and to break through and get out there. And I think a conversation with somebody like Stephen Colbert, where there's, Obama does very well with humor. You don't always see that because he tends to be very serious and give very serious speeches. But we just saw that he's got a great sense of humor. But in order to break through in this current moment, you want to sit down with somebody who can have that sense of humor with you, but who can also have very serious discussions about some of the major challenges we're facing.
I think you learned the lesson from the first Trump administration that when he did punch, it got blown up in a substantial way, and he was pretty humorless about it, frankly. So I think he's adapted to that. But the thing I would and submit here as a Republican is that my Democratic friends, their best person was last on the ballot 14 years ago and left office 10 years ago. That is a markedly different Democratic Party, different coalition, different electoral math here, and yet he is still the best attribute they have for the Democratic Party.
Well, so here, I'm glad that you put it that way, because it speaks exactly to the next point that I wanted to talk about, which is who Obama identified in this interview as someone who is the next up-and-coming voice for the Democratic Party. Here he was talking about Zohran Mamdani, the mayor of New York, talking about how he cuts through the gobbledygook, was Obama's word, not mine. Watch.
What I'm more interested in for Democrats is, do you know how to just talk to regular people like we're not in a college seminar, right? Can you talk plain English to folks? And so what I'm looking for...
Is there a strict no gobbledygook?
No gobbledygook.
Here you should carve that into the wall somewhere.
Carve that into the wall somewhere. Gobbledygook turns out to be Stephen Colbert's word. Is he right about that?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, is that for me or for you? No. Yes, he's absolutely right about that. We have to talk to people in a normal way. Some of the best messengers, not only in the Democratic Party, but in the Republican Party too, who are just running for office. we've got to be able to talk to people, in plain English. And, you can criticize President Biden for all you want, but that was something he was very adamant about. He would go through his speeches and he would take out complicated words or words that maybe a third or a fifth grader didn't understand, and he would put plain language in there.
Like malarkey.
Well, like people understand malarkey. So look, the bottom line is this: people want to be communicated to, not like they're in a college seminar, but they want to be spoken to in ways that they can actually understand.
Sincerity.
And that breaks through. That's the beer test model, and I think that those are the people who tend to win.
But what
re-election.
Jamie said was likability, sincerity has been broken through, and that is a post-Obama era. Obama is way too polished. He made the teleprompter sing. That was what he got. We got, as a hangover of that, Trump saying exactly what he thought in that moment, which could be directly outrageous and very specific to a moment, which would drive the media cycle. It's a very different environment now how politicians talk, including significant Democratic elected officials that think the four-letter F word is the most powerful political language they can use in order to get into the media cycle. It's very different today.
John?
I agree with you. I think right now many people put authenticity ahead of partisan label because they don't trust any politicians. And again, they don't trust this town to listen to them, to do things relevant to them. So Mamdani broke through by talking about affordability in a way that the people of New York City got. Now, can you sell those ideas in North Carolina? Can you sell those ideas in Indiana? About free buses or subsidized housing? Maybe not. But he was talking to his voters about an issue, high rents, high costs, high affordability, that broke through. I just had a Trump voter in a conversation the other day. We were talking about affordability, and I said, what should people do? This is a Christian conservative pastor in Texas who said subsidize housing and subsidize food for families who need help. A conservative saying because he sees the affordability crisis up close. So people are willing to go way outside their boxes to solve problems. It's the politicians who aren't willing to meet them where they are.
I mean, honestly, even the word affordability, I've thought about this. When we say affordability crisis, what does that even mean, right? It means like people don't have enough money to pay to live, right? Like, how is it, why is it that we're still using that kind of language even when we talk about this? It's such a real...
And to your point, Governor Beshear, who I think everyone believes may run in 2028 for president, he says things like, don't say food insecurity, say I'm going hungry. Like, talk to people, meet them where they are, talk to people like normal human beings. It's going to take you pretty far.
But this is the rise of populism, which is, what is your lived experience? Do you like it? And what we've seen for 20 years in America, actually a little bit longer, is that people are very unhappy with their situation. You can call this tech. You can call that with the tech overlay that, Kasie, you've spent a lot of time talking about, the concern that parents have, or actually manufacturing. Where are the manufacturing jobs? Actually, are surprisingly here, but the rhetoric around job losses and people's lived experience has changed people's psyche about whether or not we should be optimistic about America and our future.
John King, do you find when you talk to these voters too, because I mean, you bring up manufacturing, right? And we think a lot about the hollowed out towns in places like Youngstown, Mahoning County, Western Pennsylvania, and that driving the Trump era. But we are barreling into a situation where it's going to happen on a white collar scale also for kids that are coming out of college. I mean, it's already starting to happen to people I know who have kids who are graduating. On a scale and in a set of communities that's totally different. Are you picking that up already from voters you talk to?
Oh, yeah. People look backwards. Grandpa used to work in that factory. Dad worked in that factory. I thought I was going to work in that factory. That factory's gone. So people look backwards at the manufacturing part, and they think, what? No one's here to help my town. No one's talking in a way to help my town. Where's the economy of my town? And then they look forward, and you look, as a parent of a high school freshman, I have two older kids who are out in the world doing just great. A parent of a high school freshman, what is AI going to do to the next 3 years of his life in high school, then the 4 years in college, and then what jobs are out there? People are out there asking this all the time because they're seeing it. They see these data centers pop up in their communities. They think it's thousands of jobs. It's a lot of construction jobs at the beginning, but then once the thing is built, it's mostly an HVAC team to keep it cool and some programmers. And so they're asking these questions on a daily basis. Again, if they don't see many people, some would say any people, whether it's their governor's office, their state legislature, or especially here, giving them a North Star. This is where we're going. It's going to be bumpy. It's going to be a lot of curves. That's what they're missing. They're lost in this economy.
Right. All right.